Greetings, everyone, and thank you for participating in today's webinar to learn how you can accelerate the possible with Panduit copper products and solutions. Today's webinar, entitled How to Maximize Network Performance Using Panduit's Innovative Copper Connectivity Solutions, will be presented by Mohamed Abdel Rahman, Senior Technical Consultant at Trident Technology Services. I'm Vanessa Azzi. I'm the Senior Marketing Executive at Trident, and I'll be moderating the webinar today. The webinar will be starting shortly. You don't have to worry about your microphones or your webcams. Those are disabled for you. If you have questions, we're going to try to answer as many questions as possible, but please do get those entered in the Q&A section located at the bottom of your screen in the control panel. As some question may get lost in the chat, Mohamed will be answering your questions live at the end of the session. We will also be sharing with you the recording of the session tomorrow. So now, without further delay, I'll leave the stage to Mohamed.
Okay, thank you, Vanessa, for your introduction. And hello and welcome everyone for the new session, how to maximize the network performance using Panduit Innovations Copper Connectivity Solutions. This is today's agenda. We will start with very quickly information about Panduit Infrastructure, the business unit from Panduit Infrastructure Solutions, the market update for the structure cabling system, Ethernet roadmap, especially for the copper connectivity solutions. Then we will talk about the Panduit Innovative Copper Connectivity Solutions. The QuickNet copper cabling solutions, we will discuss it in brief to talk about pre-terminated solutions, where when the terminations, testing, you have issue for the time, for the installations or testing for your network. Also the DAC cables, the direct attached copper solutions, we will talk about the different solutions that can Panduit offer. Finally, we will finish up with the network infrastructure security solutions. We planned for a series of sessions. Starting today, we will discuss the copper connectivity solutions. Next week, we will go through the fiber solutions and the innovations from Panduit in the fiber area. So let's start with the Panduit infrastructure for the connecting world in brief for 3 minutes to talk what Panduit can be offer. For more than 65 years of innovations, in 1955, Panduit founder Jack Caveney invented the band duct or the wiring duct that you can see here, the wiring duct in his garage. And this is the first product from Panduit. This band duct, one second. Okay, this band duct is used to organize the control panel wiring and allowed for the new wiring or move add change inside, especially inside the control panel, to have safely and quickly installations. So it means that Panduit started with the spark of innovations that it changed the way of the people thought about the cable management inside the control panel. As you can see here, this is the original band duct patent diagram. And also in the right picture, you can see the Panduit current wiring duct in use worldwide nowadays. Very quick information about Panduit. Panduit is a unique company, privately held, more than $1 billion for the sales. We are plus 5,000 employees across the global. We have around plus 2,000 patents, especially in the network infrastructure. We are talking about plus 500 patents so far. Panduit ranked one of the top 3 connectivity providers globally. And for 100 company globally, for the top 100 company globally, 91% of them Panduit customer, like Microsoft, Google, Apple, Cisco, and so on. When you are talking about the strategic infrastructure for the critical applications, Panduit have 2 business unit, starting with the network infrastructure business unit and the industrial electrical infrastructure business unit. We have 5 vertical markets, starting with the instruction or industrial constructions, the maintenance repair option, which is we have product like grounding solutions, power connectors. We have cable tie portfolio, which is related to the industrial constructions. Also, the OEM, Panduit is a leading supplier for the OEM. For the cable tie, we are talking about the electrical safety solutions. For the enterprise solutions, also we have a complete solutions end-to-end for the copper, for the fiber connectivity, the management, the outlet, and the AV solutions, also using the Atlona solution. The data center vertical market, also for the physical infrastructure solutions. And finally, the industrial network business, which is including the industrial frames, industrial zones network connectivity, when you are talking about the industrial or harsh environment to meet the requirement for the industrial solutions or harsh environment solutions. When it comes to the data center, the digital transformation, as we said, digital transformations require data center transformations as well. So when it comes to the data center, especially when we talk about small, medium, or even hyperscale data center like Facebook, Google, Amazon, in Panduit we can provide complete end-to-end physical infrastructure solution. So Panduit have a unique value. The unique from Panduit that really it is the only company in the market now that can be provide complete end-to-end physical infrastructure solutions inside the white space, or even or talk about computer room of the data center. And we will see in the next slide, as you can see here, any data center stack it's consists of 3 different stacks: the facility, the infrastructure, and the IT or information technology. As shown, Panduit can be offer unique value. When you are talking about the physical infrastructure, we have a comprehensive solutions for the physical infrastructure, which can be bridge the gap between the facility or traditional facility and the IT stack. Panduit have a solution to deliver complete family of data center hardware, even software and services. We can be minimize the which is say the integration issue that may happen when you are relying on different vendors. You have an integration issue, but by using Panduit product, you don't have integration issue. You can rely only on one company for all your infrastructure systems or all your infrastructure solutions. As we said, we have an end-to-end unique solutions for the physical infrastructure system, starting with the cabinet. We have the pre-configured cabinet, the rack BDUs, the copper connectivity that we will focus today on innovations from Panduit in the copper connectivity area. Talk about the fiber connectivity. Also, we have different innovations, product and patent solutions, especially for the network infrastructure. We have the grounding solution, pathways, DCIM solutions, hardware and software from Panduit, and the DCIM pooling optimization. So we will focus today, as we said, on the copper solutions, the connectivity inside the data center. We will talk about the Panduit innovations in the area of the copper connectivity solution. So now the market update. Let's have some information about the market update and for the structured cabling system and different Ethernet roadmap. As you can see here, based on Building Surface Research and Information Association, BSRIA, it is have updated research which indicates that the global market for the structured cabling system, it declined by 12% from 2019 to 2020. In 2019, the market for the structured cabling system is around $6.6 billion, and it's declined to $5.8 billion in 2020. And the expectations from the BSRIA that the expectations that it will be returned to the 2019 sales, it will not happen before 2023. So we have variations, as we all know that there are variations between the companies, which is related to the general impact of the pandemic in each company or each country. Also, we need to consider that for the copper connectivity solutions or copper cable and connectivity solution, it declined globally by 15%. But for the fiber solutions, it also declined in 2020 for the sales by 7% compared to 2019 or 2019. Also, for the market for the data center and the comparison with the LAN and data center, as we said, the impact of the pandemic in 2020 is varying depending on several factors from each company, level of restrictions, the government management of the pandemic, also the length of the lockdown happened in 2020. But for the data center, as you can see here, this is the updated research that in 2020, the data center segment, it is like performed better than the LAN. And in 2020, you have a relatively flat for the data center market and the high demand for most of the company in 2020 for the data center. Even for the co-location data center, the cloud data center are driving the demand today in 2020 and 2021. And we have a positive outlook for all the regions in the world for 2021 and 2022. Okay, as you can see here, the copper connectivity or bandwidth evaluations, copper is still able to provide a reliable and cost-effective options when you are talking about the bandwidth and the requirement. It can be delivered shorter reach link, and for the data center, even if you need to have a 10 gigabit per second for 100 meters, it doesn't require to get expensive transceivers for these connections, especially for the management inside the data center. For twisted pair, if you are looked in this Ethernet roadmap, that for the highest data rate can be served by the copper connectivity, it's called 25 gigabit per second and 40 gigabit per second. The 25 and 40 gigabit per second required to have Cat8 solutions, which is shielded solutions, and they can be reached up to 30 meters instead of the unshielded or Cat6A cables, but it can be support for 25 or 40 gigabit per second for 30 meters. In bandwidth, we are completed the Cat8 prototype and has a third-party test. In 2015 and 2016, we finished the prototype and the testing and verified the third-party testing for the Cat8. But due to the fact currently in the market, you cannot find equipment that can be support Cat8, and the copper 25 gig and 40 gig using the twisted pair solutions, it is not available yet in the market. Cisco also have no switch till now, and Cisco don't have roadmap for Cat8 solutions to support 25 or 40 gig. Also bandwidth, it checked with many of many manufacturing for the Cat8 solutions, and no one have planned to have 25 gig or 40 gig for the Cat8 solution. Additionally, as discussed in the previous slide, the new launched 2.5 gig and 5 gigabit per second standard, which is designed for the existing Cat5e or Cat6 solutions that can be supported for the brownfield. You can be due to the high demand for the wireless and PoE for the security and wireless solutions. But the recommendations also to going, if you have a greenfield or a new installation site, to going with Cat6a solutions. 2.5 and 5 gigabit per second product are designed for only for the brownfield, as I said, to utilize the installations and don't install a new cable. And also Cat8, as we said, it can be support up to 30 meters, but still we don't have active equipment transceivers that can be supported by Cat8. Cat6a is still the available choice or the recommended choice to have a 10 gigabit per second. And also, if you look at the table, you can see the twisted pair cable can be supported starting from 10 BT up to 40 gigabit per second using the twisted pair cable. Okay. Also, as mentioned in our first polling questions, that existing Cat5e or Cat6 can be support multi-gig or 2.5 gig or 5 gigabit per second. It is based on the N-base-T, N-base 5 gig to the installed or the brownfield installed Cat5e and Cat6. But you need to consider that it is not assured for every. It is not assured for all cases. For example, it is very important to do a risk assessment. You need to have a perform site survey and testing for your existing solutions to check if it can be support all. No, as you can see in the figure for the 5 gigabit per second, if you are going to have existing Cat5e and the length of the bundles of the cable from the patch panel to outlet greater than 50 meters, it means that you have a risk or high, medium to high risk. So it is very important to consider that to support 2.5 or 5 gigabit per second, it depends on the quality of the existing cable, depend on the bundle size, the link length, to have the ability to have existing 5 gig or 2.5 gig. Also for the Cat6 cable, it can be support 10 gigabit per second based on TIA or TSP. It can be support 10 gig, but for the distance limitations between 37 and 55 meters, which is depending on the level of area and crosstalk in your site or your installations environment. So you need also to check it. But based on the TIA, Cat6 can be support also for 10 gig for distance between 37 and 55 meters. Also, as we discussed before in our previous PoE challenges webinar, that PoE++ also for the type 3 and type 4, both double the energized number of pairs that can be transmitted. The current, you have 4 pairs transmitting the current to have PoE++ with 99 watt transmitted from the source, and the power device is receiving 71 for the type 4 PoE++. PoE++ approved by IEEE in late 2018, and it is published in 2011. 19, sorry, published early in 2019. But the recommendations from the standard to going with Cat6a cables, to have a Cat6a cable for the PoE applications for future proof, or when you are going to use PoE++ in the future, the recommendation to going with Cat6a cable. Cat6a cable, it will have a thermal performance, and also another recommendation from different standard, let's say, to have a wrap foil cable. As you can see, the wrap foil cable, it can be have around the 4 pairs, and can be increasing the thermal performance and make the conductor is cool, because the PoE++, the main impact from the PoE++ during the bundling is the heat. So the recommendation to going with Cat6a cable, and also another recommendation to have a wrap foil cable around the 4 pairs to have a thermal performance and keep the conductor is cool. Also for the wireless access point are the good example for the new technology that will be quickly need also 10 gigabit per second. As you can see in the table, this is the summarized difference between Wi-Fi is available today, from Wi-Fi 4, Wi-Fi 5, 6, and future Wi-Fi 7. In Wi-Fi 5, the data rate required is around 6.9 gigabit per second. For the Wi-Fi 6.11ax, it needs 9.6 gigabit per second for the data rate. The data rate, it means it is like the data rate or maximum data rate that could be required for the access point for the maximum number of users. So the Cat6a cable, it is required starting from Wi-Fi 5 and higher or beyond Wi-Fi 5. The recommendations to going with Cat6a to support the requirement from data rate needed. Also for the future Wi-Fi 7, as you can see here, it exceeds the 10 gigabit per second, and the recommendation to using minimum 2 cables from the Cat6a to support the access point. And the Cat6a, it will be, let's say, it will not future proofing. It's now current requirement for the Wi-Fi 6, and also for the future, it will need to have minimum 2 cables from Cat6a to support the Wi-Fi 7 access point. And also one of the advantages for Wi-Fi 6, it is called the increasing of the density of the access point. You can be increasing the density based on the number of users available. For the high density, you can be added another access point with high density. So now the industry trend to install Cat6a cables, it will be from day one for the future proofing, especially for the PoE applications, as we said, to be sufficient for the better heat dissipations and better for the wireless access point and the need for 10 gigabit per second. And most of the standard nowadays, it is recommended to going with 10 gigabit per second using the Cat6a cables. So now let's jump to the some innovations from Panduit. Let's talk about Panduit innovations. As we mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, that Panduit is mainly focused on the innovations and actively innovating, investing for the new product. In Panduit, we have the first toolless jack in the industry, in the market in 2005. Also, we are pioneered in 28 EWG patch cord, as we will see, the matrix cables or foiled cable or discontinuous metallic foil cables. It is innovative from Panduit. So let's discuss the different innovations from the Panduit. This is the history for Cat6a cables, starting with the traditional Cat6a cables. This is the Cat6a cable, which is introduced in 2006. Which is the first generation for Cat6a cable. So to have using 500 megahertz, or even to minimize the crosstalk between the bundles of the cable, most of the vendors is going to have a large diameter cable to have lots of filler inside the cable to have a minimum crosstalk between the bundles of the cable. So Panduit started a lot of let's say effort for the Cat6a cable and introduced the matrix cable, which is the smallest Cat6a cable in the market in 2007. Then we have advanced matrix, Varimetrics, and nowadays we have launched a new cable. It's called Varimetrics HD, which is the smallest cable for Cat6a. It is the near to Cat6, same diameters. Cat6, so you don't have any concern when you are upgrading or renovations from Cat6a or Cat6 to Cat6a. Okay. In 2007, as we said, matrix Panduit is innovated or have a patent cable. It's called matrix cable. It is simply it is a metallic isolation wrap construction. It is a discontinuous shield, or you have a metal foil, but it's cutting by laser, which is provide alien crosstalk suppressions, and also by having this cutting by laser for the foiled cable, you don't need to have any grounding or bonding for the cable. The foiled, it is not a solid foil to have bonding and the grounding for the module, but it is a foiled cutting by laser discontinuous. This cable, it started in 2007. It giving you, let's say, it giving you the minimum crosstalk or alien crosstalk between the bundles of the cable, and also it can be support up to 75 degree instead of 60 degree for the traditional cable from Cat6a. And also nowadays we have a Varimetrics cable. It can be support up to 90 degree, which is give you some flexibility for the ambient temperatures for the cable. Also, the Varimetrics and Varimetrics HD from Panduit, we have some innovations for the matrix cable. have now best electromagnetic interference immunity to the electromagnetic interference. So you have a higher performance using the UTP cable. It is a UTP solutions, but with a foiled cutting by laser or discontinuous foil, as we said. So now, the meaning of electromagnetic interference, this is the common sources of electromagnetic interference, like light fixture when you are talking about the radio or even and TV broadcast, walkie-talkie or airport communications. In bandwidth, we have noticed that the solid foil cable, if you are going with the solid foil cable and didn't do the grounding and bonding for this cable. In bandwidth, we note that this foil cable tape, it will be attract the electromagnetic interference, as you can see here in the picture, and it will be impact on the performance. And also this solid foil, if you have a solid foil around the cable, it will have like act as antenna. So it goes for drop your packet and lose your network link. But in bandwidth, as you can see, this is a comparison between the different cable using the solid foiled or the matrix cable or even the Varimetrics cable. As we mentioned, the solid foil, if you are going to UTP but using solid foil cable, it will have antenna effect. So it will be the network performance will be decreased. But bandwidth, when launched the new matrix cable with cutting in the foiled or discontinuous foil, it have electromagnetic performance much be improved, and this is the best UTP electromagnetic interference immunity. Bandwidth Lab have found that by varying the, let's say, the foils, by varying the cutting of the foil for the cable, it gives you best UTP electromagnetic interference and immunity for the electromagnetic interference. And also in Bandwidth Lab, R&D performed a research into the design of the Varimetrics cable compared to the solid foiled cable available in the market. A test was performed to be compared, as we said, the solid foil and the Varimetrics cable. They found that the solid foil need to be placed twice as far as for the electromagnetic interference than the Varimetrics cable. Varimetrics cable, it will need half distance for the safe distance from the electromagnetic interference. So the Varimetrics cable now, it is have a minimum alien crosstalk. It will have the best electromagnetic interference immunity, and also it is the smallest Cat6a cable in the market. In Varimetrics cable, the diameter for the Varimetrics cable it is around 6.5 millimeter, and also for the Varimetrics HD, it is around 5.9 millimeter. Okay. Also, one of the innovations from the bandwidth, we all know the angle patch panel. The angle patch panel, it gives you, as you can see in the picture, the angle patch panel, it can give you, eliminate the need for the horizontal cable organizer. You don't need horizontal cable organizer, and you have a controlling bending radius for the cable. It can have cable management and move edit change. It will be easy. So it is a patent from Bandwidth. As you can see here, this is a copy of the patent number. This is the patent number and the patent, the innovations from the Bandwidth for the angle patch panel cable support. So also it is innovations from Bandwidth. Bandwidth started to manufacturing the angle patch panel before others in the market. Also, when it comes to the module jack, or it's called the TG style module jack, the TG style module jack connector Bandwidth patent also a new connector termination technology innovated from Bandwidth. It is not about the front of the jack. As you can see, this is the front of the jack and the back of the jack. The front of the jack, it is IEC compliant. It is the same like other jack, but when you are going to the back of the jack, this is the wire cap. It is innovative from Bandwidth to have minimized the crosstalk. You have keeping the cable untwisted, keeping the cable twisted inside the module during the termination, giving you stability for the twisted pair, and also fastest terminations time when you are going to using the toolless jack. It is launched in 2005, TG style, And also this jack, it is rated to 2500 meeting cycles. Using the PoE++, you can be connect and disconnect the patch cord for the PoE++, and you have 2500 meeting cycle. The traditional in the market or the standard for the meeting cycle, it is 750. Also, all Cat6a module jack, it have a matrix cables, this continuous metallic foil inside the jack, so you can be installed up to 48 module inside the patch panel with a minimum alien crosstalk headroom, and can giving you minimum alien crosstalk between the modules. Also, the 28 AWG, it is launched in Panduit in 2011. This patch cord, it is not compliant by the standard in 2011, but it is approved in the standard in TIA standard 568 in 2018. This cable, it is very simple. It is you can see that you can compare between the different patch cord or the difference between 24 AWG, which is traditional patch cord available in the market, and this is the patch cord 28 AWG that is innovative also from Panduit. After 7 years, as we said, we launched this cable patch cord in 2011, and in 2018 it is approved and recognized by the standard. Using this cable, it can give you a better, let's say, port visibility for the cable, easier cable management. You can have a space for your finger to connect and disconnect the patch cord. But the only considerations must put in your considerations that the D rating for the 28 AWG, it is 1.95. The D rating for the standard patch cord 24 AWG, it is around 1.2, but the D rating 1.95 for the 28 AWG. It means that you have a higher attenuation, so you can reach a maximum distance. You have a shorter distance for 28 AWG. So now this is the fourth polling question. You can be answer it. What is the maximum channel length when you are going to have horizontal permanent link using 23 AWG? This is a traditional solid cable, horizontal, but you are going to plan to have a 28 AWG for the patch cord. So what is the maximum length for the 28 AWG to have the same head room or headroom for the channel? If you are going with the traditional one, it will be 100 meters using the traditional 24 AWG. Okay. I think 32 is say the right answer. It is 96 meters with a 90% meters for the horizontal cable, and for the patch cord 28 AWG can be support up to 96 meters. This is the right answer. And okay, you don't need to memorize these lenses for the patch cord. You can be mix and match between the different gauge for the cables and the patch cord using the applications from Panduit. Panduit launched applications. It's called Panduit Direct It. This application can make the mix and match for the different component, starting for the horizontal cable. We are talking about the patch cord. The horizontal cable can be chosen from Cat6, Cat6a, 22, 23, or even 26 AWG for the small diameter. And also you can be choose the patch cord and the gauge for the patch cord, if it 24 or 26 or 28 patch cord. And this application, it will give you this setup. It will be good channel or bad channel. And also it will give you the additional lens you can be added, and still you have in the right good channels for transmission. Finally, the batch cord for the 28 AWG, it started with 8-inch. We have 20 centimeter for the batch cord, which is perfect for the switchboard replication to the panel. You can be replicating the ports of the batch cord, so you don't need to have a cable horizontal organizer needed. So you are saving your cost and spaces and installation for the batch cord. Finally, another innovations for the copper connectivity solutions. You can see here, Panduit starting noted that most of yesterday cabling is running to the outlet for the voice or data applications, but cabling of today running to many other devices, especially for the digital sealing devices. When you are talk about the camera, digital signage, wireless access point, or even the sensor. So by running into the ceiling, you have different challenge. Do you need to see the terminations of the cable? What about the batch cord to connect the device to the outlet? So Panduit have innovation solutions. It's called field terminal plug, or it's called by the standard, and it's approved by standard also from the TIA in 2018. It's called MBTL, modular block terminated link. And this cable module can be used for the direct connections for the devices like wireless access point, LED lighting, or even security cam sensors. You can be used this modular block terminated link for any device that you don't have planned for. It changes the locations for this device. So it is very simple. It's a two-part assembly, less expensive compared to have a surface mount box module and patch cord to connect to the device. So the approach for to have a patch cord approach can be converted to the direct connections to the digital sealing devices. And also it is approved by the TIA, and it will give you a cleaner look, especially for the open sealing when you are installing wireless access point or security devices. Also, it is available in different termination style. It have a straight, we have angled, up or down. So it can be solved different problem when you are making the bending radius for the cable, if you have a confined spaces or tight fit, or if you have a small boxes to make the terminations for the module. So we have a different styles from the wire cap, from standard, the angle solution. Let's jump for quickly for the QuickNet copper cabling solutions. Also, to have a pre-terminated cabling assembly, especially for the data center solutions, we have a QuickNet copper solutions. The QuickNet copper solutions can be provide complete end-to-end pre-terminated, let's say, solutions, end-to-end ideal for the data center, especially. When the time of the traditional solutions to make the termination, testing, labeling, and installations for the cable, it is limited. So it is a plug and play solutions designed with 6 cable bundle. As you can see, this is a 6 cable bundle. So you can be used it directly, and you have a modular customized solutions. You can be choosing between cassette to cassette, cassette to plug, or plug to plug, or even cassette to plug back for the cable. And also it is available in shielded and unshielded solutions up to 99 meters. So it is very simple, easy to make your setup, your bill of material. If you are going to have a pre-terminated solution, you can be choosing from the multiple cables required. From the pre-terminated, you can be choosing the 2 ends, it's cassette, plug, or any requirement. You can be also have a cassette to plug or cassette to cassette. You can have different scenarios when you are making the design. And also we have an online configurator. You can be using the online configurator to choose the pre-terminated cable required. And also you can be choosing the accessories required to complete the solutions from the batch panel or any other accessories for solutions. Also, it will be useful for the data center applications if you are going to have two connector interconnections, or even you need to have a 3 connector cross connect, or even you have a cross connections for the 4 connections inside the data center. So you have a cross connect cabinet, and you have a 2 permanent link between the switch and the cross connect, and another permanent link from the server to the batch panel. So you have a different scenarios when it comes to the data center link configurations. Also, another very important solution, it's called Switchboard equipment harness. You can be using the harness solutions. These solutions give you replications for the switchboard. If you have the switchboard inside the cabinet and you need to make the replications for the board to have advantage for less interface to the switch, you don't need to have for the routine move edit change for the batch board inside the switch. You need to have a replication inside the batch panel. So we have the quick harness or harness cable that have a cassette to the plug, so it can be connected the plug inside the batch panel, the switch, and replicate it to the batch panel, and also it will have a replications and the same numbering on the batch panel. The pre-terminated solutions, it will be commitment to the green, the requirement today to have a green environment. So this is the comparison between the traditional solutions and the pre-terminated solutions. When it comes to have a 600 link, if you have a 600 link and you need to make the comparison between the traditional solutions and the pre-terminated solutions, the pre-terminated solutions, as you can see, it is considered the green than the traditional solution, and you have a minimum cartons or some on-site waste inside your direct attached copper cable, DAC cable. Also, in next webinar, we will talk about the AOCs, the active optical cables. Now, today, we will go through the DAC cables, direct attached copper cable. As we said, it's a factory terminated, but it is not a twisted pair cable. The cable, it is a Twinix. Twinix cable, it is like the coaxial cable, but with 2 inner conductors. This cable, it is like to have used to make the connections between, for the top of the rack, to connect between the servers and the top of the rack switch for the smaller size, or even you can be used to connect between the 2 different switches in a smaller size. So you can see here, we have 2 types of DAC cable. The DAC cable for the direct connections, you can have the direct connections between 2 ports. And as we said, it is pluggable with transceivers, copper. And also we have a breakout solutions. Breakout solutions, it means that you have a breakout DAC cables. For example, if you have a 40 gig from one side port and you need to transfer to 4 different SFP cables or 4 different servers, so you have 4 SFP plus in another system. Also, the cables, it's available in active or passive. So we have passive cable. Also, we have active cables. The difference between the passive DAC and the difference between the passive cables and active cables, that the passive cable don't do any amplifications for the signals. But the DAC cables, it includes the signal amplifications and some equalizations for the signals to reach higher distance. Using the active cables can be reached. This is the cables. If you are going, as we said, we have a pluggable from both sides, starting with SFP plus. When you are talking about 10 gig, it can be support for 40 gig or can be have a 100 gig for the shorter distance. For the 10 gig, you can be using SFP plus from both sides, and the cable, it will be 2-pair Twinix. 2-pair Twinix, this is the picture for the cable used for DAC cables. As we said, it is like a coaxial cable, but with 2 inner conductor inside it instead of 1 inner conductor for the coaxial cable. This cable, it is around 10% or 10 times higher than the data rate or the twisted pair. So this cable it have 10 times higher speed or data rate when you are compared it to the twisted pair cable, and it is a low price, low power consumptions, and it is a plug and play solution from Panduit. It can be supported, as we said, for 10 gig. As you can see, it is SFP plus to SFP plus for shorter distance up to 5 meters for or 7 meters for the passive, or can be support up to 10 meters for the active solution to support 10 gigabit per second. Also, it is available in QSFP Plus to have a 40 gigabit per second. And finally, we have a cable that can be support for the 100 gigabit per second Ethernet using the DAC cable for the shorter distance. Also, it can be provide breakout solutions, as we said, 100 gigabit per second from one side, and you have divided it to 425 gigabit per second to the different servers or different active equipment, and it's available up to 5 meters. You can check also the compatibility with most of the vendors. We have compatible with most of the vendors. It's available in our white paper. It includes all the compatibility with the different vendors for the DAC cables. Finally, 2 minutes, we will talk about the network infrastructure security solutions. It's also available from Panduit. We need have some protections for your telecommunication or data center. You don't need to rely only on the software. We need to make or create multiple obstacles based on most of the standard. You need to have, you don't need to have any accessing for your network port. You need to block as much as possible for your ports. You need to add also lock the accessing for the ports. The blocking any ports, it's not only for the telecommunication or data center, for any equipment, for any device or active equipment, we need to blocking it. In Panduit, we have 2 scenarios for the network infrastructure solutions. We have the net or keyed copper solutions, and also have network security devices for the security. The first solution from the Panduit is called keyed copper cabling solutions, which is increased the network security. You can have positive and negative keying features. For example, it is a mechanical connections between the patch cord and the module. We have 6 different colors for the jack and the patch cord. You need to choose the right color for the patch cord to be inserted mechanically to the module. The patch cord is designed to have one key from end, and for the other end, it will be standard RJ45 to connect to the active device. But from the another side, it will be keyed. It will be compatible only with the same color from the jack. Standard patch cord, it will not connect it or compatible with these solutions. So it will add some security for your network, different network. Also, we have a network security devices. It's called lock-in or block-out. We have the block-out devices. As you can see, the block-out device, it can block any authorizations or access for RJ45, LC, or even USB type A or type B USB. The block-out, it's compatible with the most of the RJ45 or LC module. Also, the lock-in devices, it can be prevent any unauthorized to remove the patch cord from the patch panel or from the switch, and also it's compatible with most of the patch cord. So you have you can only disconnect this plug using your tools. So you have a single point of management. So you have a special tool to make the access, and any unauthorized person cannot have accessing for your port or to disconnect any batch cord RJ or LC or SC. Also, Panduit in this area launched a new product line. It's called block-out. It is more complex, looking for a mechanism, especially for the RJ45, for the USB type A and type C. So you have a single, as you can see here, this is the single smart key or a single key with a multiple devices. So one key can, as you can see, can be controlled for the USB type A or type C or even RJ45. So the block-out port can only be removed by the smart key, master key. So you have locking mechanism compatible with the devices. So finally, as we said, using the smart key or the master smart key solutions, you have a different block-out devices, USB type A or which is compatible with the most of the ports that not only inside the equipment, it's available in the laptop or any devices. Also USB Type-C, which is compatible in variety of hosts nowadays. And finally, the RJ45 block, as we said, it's compatible with the most of the RJ45. So now I'm finished. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask now.
Thank you, Mohamed, for the very, very informative session. Before we start with the questions, I'd like to point out that at the end of the webinar, a survey will pop up on your screen to collect your feedback on today's session. Your input is highly appreciated as we are always looking to optimize our work. So please, to fit your expectations, so please do fill it. Now back to you, Mohamed. We were asked a few questions. Just one question is still unclear to us. So if Mr. Yasser Talat can please give us a bit more information about what he means by what is meant by the 2 Cat6 while we answer the rest of the questions, that would be tremendous. We have a question from Mr. Danny Babouke. He asked, what is the maximum distance of Cat6 and Cat6A cables?
Maximum distance for Cat6, okay. The standard, the maximum length, it is 100 meters for the copper cabling. Copper cabling cannot exceed the 100 meter. It is the standard. By the way, using 90 meters for the permanent link using the solid cable, and 10 meters for the patch cord using the stranded patch cord. So the distance, it's not depend on the category of the cable. It is the maximum. It will be 100 meters using even Cat 8 for the 10 gigabit per second. Only Cat 8, it will have a support for 30 meters for the 25 gig or 40 gigabit per second.
All right. Thank you, Mohamed. For Ali Ahmed, Mr. Ali Ahmed asked, what about the Cat 7 and why Panduit is not offering it?
For the Cat 7, we already offered Cat 7 and Cat 7A, but it is SFTP solutions. But Cat 7 for the solutions end-to-end, we offered the cable. The solutions for the Cat 7 end-to-end, it is not approved by the TIA. It is approved only by the ISO. And from the TIA, it is not approved till now because it's using a non-standard RG45. It is using, for the module, it is using module, it's called Tera or GG45. So this module, it is not approved due to the standardization. So we offered only Cat6A total solutions. But if you're going with the Cat 7 or Cat 7A cables, you will be install the Cat 6A modules. So the solutions, it will be Cat 6A, not Cat 7.
Okay, thank you. For Yasser Talat, he asked, what is the coupling attenuation of Panduit Cat 6A?
Coupling attenuation, I think he means the alien crosstalk, talking about the alien crosstalk, the coupling or mutual crosstalk between the cabling. We have, as we said, the Cat 6A cables, we have the different product range for the Cat 6A, for the traditional one, using the larger diameters cable, and also we have the matrix cable up to the Varimetrics cable, which have a higher minimum alien crosstalk between the cable using the matrix cable after having wrapped inside the cable. So it is tested also for the alien crosstalk with the minimum alien crosstalk based on the headroom required for the cable from the standard.
He also needed more information on the antenna effect of the cable. I think he meant the solid foil barrier tape that acts as an antenna.
Yes, as we said, if you have a solid foil, it's not cutting by laser or discontinuous by the laser. This cable solid antenna, it will be take all the electromagnetic interference, and the solid cable, it means if you don't ground it right using the modules, the patch panels, then you have a grounding pass to the earthing point. It will have a grounding effect. It means that it will have a radiations from the cable. The cable is foiled, not grounding, so it will have antenna effect. It means it will have electromagnetic interference or electromagnetic radiations from the cable. It will affect other cable between inside the bundle.
Okay, Mr. Alexander Santos asked, may we know the maximum distance for direct attach cables, copper cables?
As we said, we have two types for DAC cables, the active one and passive one. The passive, it can be support up to 5 meters or 7 meters based on the data rate required, 10 gig or 40 or 100 gigabit per second. And the active, it can be support up to 10 meters or even sometimes 15 meters. Also, it will be depend on the equipment used or vendor manufacturing used. But for the active, it can be support up to 15 meters. For the passive, DAC cables can be support up to 7 meters.
Mr. Danny Babuke asks if the country of origin is USA for all Panduit products.
Sorry, again?
He's asking if the country of origin is USA for all of Panduit products.
We have different manufacturing we have 9 manufacturing for the product. We have the USA, Romania, in Far East. We have different locations, Costa Rica, and different based on the product or items you are asking. But for the fibers, I think it is USA. We have the cabinet from Romania, I think, and so on. Different manufacturing region.
Mr. Mohamed Safi is asking, do we have 2 different direct attach cables for passive and active application?
Yes, as we said, we have 2 different types for the DAC cables, it's passive and active cables. It depends on the distance or reached length for the DAC cables required. It depends on the amplifications or the equipment. It will be available in the transceivers of the DAC cables. As we said, the DAC cables, it is a cable Twinix with pluggable transceivers from both sides. The transceiver sometimes have amplifications or active equipment to have amplifications for the signal. Sometimes we don't have it for the shorter distance.
Mr. Yasser Talat is asking, what is the main difference between solid foil and the Varimetrics, and is it related to UFTP type?
As we said, the solid foil, it is like the FTP cables. It is a solid, but when it comes to the Varimetrics or matrix cables, it is a foil. It is a UTP solutions. Don't need to have a grounding solutions. The solutions from end to end, it will be UTP solutions. So it is a UTP solutions with advantage for the shielded solutions. And also using the Varimetrics or Varimetrics HD, you can have best electromagnetic interference immunity.
Okay, and then Yasser Talat again is asking, when can I go to the solution of the Wi-Fi that utilizes more than Cat6a?
Current, we have Wi-Fi 6.11ax that it need maximum data rate 9.6 gigabit per second. So for Wi-Fi 6, it is published now. You have you need to have one cable from Cat6a to support the Wi-Fi 6. But in the future, also Wi-Fi 7 is planning to have greater than 10 gigabit per second. So it will need 2 cables to running it. For the Wi-Fi 6, one of the main advantages for it to have increasing the density of the access point. So you can be increasing the density by some sort of beam forming and decreasing the beam forming to have a high density for the access point. So if you are running only one cable with access point, you cannot adding extra Wi-Fi 6 for the cable. So the minimum to have 2 cables for the access point. But when it comes to the Wi-Fi 7 in the future, you will need to have another 2 cables. As we said, the recommendations from Panduit to have 4 cables from Cat6a cable.
Okay, from Mr. Mohamed Amran, what is the minimum distance for the Varimetrics cable for electromagnetic interference?
We don't have a minimum distance or maximum distance. It is related to the standard. Also, we have a maximum distance 100 meters for end-to-end solutions. So it will have immunity for electromagnetic interference. As we said, the foil is cutting. So the eddy current, it will produce or radiate electromagnetic interference. It will be magnetic field counteract the received magnetic field. So it will be removed any electromagnetic or external magnetic field inside it without using grounding or bonding for the cable. So the length is also based on the standard. It is maximum 100 meters from end to end.
Mr. Yasser Talat is asking, do we have platinum rated fiber cables?
Platinum rated fiber cables. Yes, we have, but it is related to USA market. We have a platinum rated fiber cable, but for the Middle East and Africa, the main standard for using cable low smoke zero halogen. But also platinum cable, it is standard for USA for transmitting the cable or distribute the cable in air distribution area. So sometimes if it is required by the consultant and if you need to have a platinum cable, you can get exceptions for the cables and we can be offered for the Middle East.
Mr. RGL Panker is asking, do Panduit panels come with earthing and bonding strips for the various categories? He also mentioned that he would love to apply to Panduit. It's a dream of his to become an RCDD. Okay. The technology at Panduit, he said, is brilliant.
Okay, thank you very much. It's when it comes to the earthing bond, no, it's not coming with the panel. The panel it's coming with it's a metal module, and you need to have an earthing cable to be connected to a grounding bus bar or grounding strip inside the cabinet. And thanks for your words.
Mr. Yasser Talat also asked, do we have any water blocking material for copper cables as in fiber water taps, especially for outdoor copper cables?
Yes, for the outdoor copper cables, we have outdoor cables for Cat6, Cat6A, even Cat7, SFTP with a gel field. So when it comes to the outdoor copper cable, we have a gel field cable to have a water blocking for the cable. So we offered gel field copper cable.
Mr. Sheikh Al-Mujahid, he's asking if the DAC cables transceiver is compatible with vendors like Cisco and Dell.
Yes, the Panduit is the only approved transceiver for Nexus, I think 3000 or 9000 from Cisco. So also it is compatible with Dell. You can send me your email and I send you the PDF that include all compatibility of our DAC cables with different vendors like Dell, Resta, or Cisco. We are compatible with most of the vendors for the DAC cable.
Mr. Yasser Talat is asking if the DAC cables are DAC cable standards or to TIA or ISO, or do they have both?
Yeah, the DAC cable, it is not a structured cable. It is a point-to-point solutions to make connections from the servers to the switch for the top of the rack, or even from the switch to switch for the shorter distance. So it is not a structured cabling system to be approved by TIA or ISO. It is like a cable related to the active equipment to make a connection, direct connections between the device, the active device.
He also asked if we have the test procedure for direct attach cables, copper cables.
To have what? Sorry.
If we have test procedure, sorry, for that.
Sure. We have testing for it with most of the compatibles. I'm talking about Cisco. We have the test result and the compatibility with most of them. So we have a testing compatibility with Cisco, Resta, Dell, and many vendors for the DAC cable.
Thank you so much, Mohamed. I think we have gone through all of the questions here. If any questions were not answered, then please do email them to Mohamed via his email address shown on the slide, or reach out to info@itrident.com. Once again, thank you all for attending today's webinar. We are looking forward to seeing you in our upcoming events. Thank you, Mohamed.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Vanessa.